Welcome to Whispers of the Guilty, where the shadows of unsolved mysteries and true crime stories linger long after the sun has set. I'm your host, Silence, guiding you through the chilling depths of the unknown and the unresolved. Today, we embark on a haunting journey into one of the most perplexing disappearances ever recorded on the high seas, the vanishing of Amy Lynn Bradley. In March of 1998, Amy Lynn Bradley, a vibrant and spirited 23-year-old, vanished from the Rhapsody of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean cruise ship sailing the serene waters of the Caribbean. What began as a blissful family vacation spiraled into a harrowing mystery that has captivated investigators, family members, and the public for decades. From the festive decks of a luxury cruise liner to the shadowy underbelly of Caribbean ports, we will unravel the layers of this mystery as we delve into the timeline of Amy's disappearance, the initial frantic searches, the heart-wrenching pleas for information, and the tireless efforts of a family that never gave up hope. We confront not only the pain of the unknown, but also the dark realities of what might have befallen Amy. Join us as we seek answers in a case that traverses the elusive boundaries of international waters and legal jurisdictions, a case that exposes the vulnerabilities of travelers and the profound depths of parental love. What happened to Amy Lynn Bradley? Stay tuned as we explore all angles of this chilling disappearance here on Whispers of the Guilty. On a sultry spring evening in March 1998, the Rhapsody of the Seas, a majestic Royal Caribbean cruise ship, embarked from the vibrant port of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Among its passengers were the Bradley family, Ron, a successful businessman with a gentle demeanor, Iva, a nurturing school teacher with a warm smile, their son Brad, a college student with dreams of law school, and Amy Lynn Bradley, a spirited 23-year-old with a contagious laugh and a penchant for adventure. The family, eager for a respite from their hectic lives in Virginia, anticipated a week of sun-soaked relaxation and unforgettable memories. The Rhapsody of the Seas was a floating palace, boasting vast decks lined with rows of sun loungers, sparkling pools, and an array of dining venues that offered everything from gourmet meals to casual bites. The Bradleys, especially Amy, reveled in the ship's luxurious offerings. A recent college graduate with a degree in physical education, Amy was at a crossroads in life, contemplating her next steps. This cruise was not just a family vacation. It was a celebration of possibilities, a fleeting escape before the realities of adulthood fully took hold. During the day, the family explored the labyrinthine corridors of the ship, participating in activities that ranged from salsa dancing lessons to art auctions. Amy, with her vibrant energy and athletic build, was a natural at every physical challenge the cruise staff offered. She impressed onlookers as she scaled the rock climbing wall with ease and outpaced others in friendly deck sports competitions. By evening, they enjoyed themed dinners and Broadway-style shows, immersing themselves in the cruise's orchestrated merriment. As the ship sailed through the serene Caribbean, the days melded into a pleasant blur of sun, laughter, and ocean breezes. However, the atmosphere shifted subtly as the days passed. Amy, usually the heart of any party, began to withdraw slightly, her earlier exuberance tempered by moments of introspection. Her family attributed this change to the normal ebb and flow of vacation dynamics. After all, it wasn't unusual for the novelty of a getaway to wane as the return to routine loomed on the horizon. On the night of March 23rd, the ship hosted a grand gala. The deck was transformed with strings of twinkling lights and elegant tables set against the backdrop of the starlit sea. The Bradleys dressed in their finest attire, Ron in a sharp tuxedo, Eva in a flowing emerald gown, Brad in a crisp navy suit, and Amy in a striking red dress that highlighted her athletic frame and sun-kissed skin. The family dined on a feast of lobster and prime rib, sharing stories and plans for the future. After dinner, they joined other passengers in the pulsating rhythm of a calypso band that played festive Caribbean tunes, enticing everyone to the dance floor. Amy danced with abandon, her laughter peeling over the music as she swayed with her brother and other passengers. As the night deepened, the air grew heavy with a mix of salty sea mist and the lingering notes of island music. Around 1 a.m., as the revelry hit its peak, Brad decided to call it a night, his energy waning. Amy, however, was not ready to end her night. She told Brad she would stay up a little longer, maybe take a walk around the deck to cool down after the dancing. Brad hesitated, a twinge of concern flickering in his mind, but it was quickly dismissed by the familiar, reassuring sight of his sister's confident smile. "I'll just be a little while," Amy assured him, her voice carrying the slight trace of adventure that always seemed to dance at the edges of her words. Brad watched as she walked away, her red dress a bright spot against the dimly lit deck. That was the last time Brad saw Amy as he knew her, vibrant, full of life, and completely at ease. The next morning, as the golden sun crept over the horizon and the ship gently rocked in the calm Caribbean waters, waters, a subtle sense of unease descended on the Bradley cabin. Ron was the first to stir, his internal clock finely tuned to his businessman's schedule. He noticed the absence of Amy's shoes outside her room. She always left them there, a small but constant habit. Concern crept in as morning routines commenced without a sign of Amy. Eva, with a mother's intuition, felt a surge of worry, her heart rate accelerating with each unanswered call to Amy's cabin phone. By breakfast, panic had set in. Amy was nowhere to be found on the ship. Her family, frantic, alerted the ship's authorities, who began a cursory search, hesitant to disrupt the other passengers' vacations. As hours passed without any sign of Amy, the search intensified. Announcements were made, and passengers were questioned. The atmosphere aboard the Rhapsody of the Seas, shifting from carefree holiday to tense vigil. The disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley thus began, not with a dramatic event, but with a quiet, haunting absence. As the ship continued its majestic voyage across the azure waters, the mystery of what happened to Amy on that warm Caribbean night began to unfold, layer by perplexing layer. The initial search for Amy Lynn Bradley on the Rhapsody of the Seas was marked by an undercurrent of restrained urgency, a balance between maintaining the festive atmosphere of the cruise and addressing the Bradley's growing alarm. The ship's crew methodically checked common areas, lounges, and public decks, places where Amy might have decided to rest or watch the sunrise. However, as the morning progressed without any sign of Amy, the situation became increasingly grave. The ship's captain, pressured by the Bradley family's insistence and the growing concern from other passengers who had become aware of Amy's disappearance, finally made the decision to conduct a comprehensive search of the ship. This involved a detailed sweep of all public areas, crew quarters, and the engine rooms, a labyrinth of steel and machinery rarely seen by guests, but a potential hiding place in a case of foul play. Meanwhile, Ron and Eva Bradley, along with Brad, were caught in a storm of confusion and fear. They moved through the ship, calling Amy's name, showing her photograph to anyone who passed by. They met with pockets of sympathy and offers of help, but no one could recall seeing Amy after the party the previous night. The possibility that Amy could have accidentally fallen overboard was whispered among the crew, but her family vehemently rejected this theory, knowing her strong swimming skills and her general cautiousness near the ship's railings. As the ship's security team reviewed the CCTV footage, the limitations of the surveillance system became painfully apparent. The cameras covered only certain parts of the decks and common areas, leaving significant gaps in the timeline of Amy's movements after her brother saw her last. The last glimpse of Amy caught on camera showed her walking briskly towards the ship's casino area, her posture relaxed, seemingly at ease. This piece of footage sparked a flurry of activity as the area was searched. Casino staff were questioned, with one bartender vaguely remembering serving a young woman matching Amy's description a soda late in the evening, noting she was alone but seemed to be enjoying the lively atmosphere. This information, while slight, was enough to fuel the family's hope that Amy was still on board and perhaps had just lost track of time or, worse, had encountered someone with ill intentions. Simultaneously, the Bradley family's plight caught the attention of the other passengers, and what began as discreet inquiries soon escalated into a ship-wide effort. Flyers with Amy's picture were quickly printed and distributed, her smiling face becoming a poignant symbol of the mystery that was unfolding in the midst of a supposed vacation paradise. By the afternoon, as the ship docked at its next scheduled stop in Aruba, the local authorities were notified and joined in the search. The focus expanded beyond the confines of the ship to the docks and surrounding areas. Considering the possibility that Amy could have disembarked voluntarily or involuntarily, sniffer dogs were brought aboard, their handlers guiding them through the maze of corridors and cabins, but their search turned up no trace of Amy. The Bradleys felt time stretching and compressing in odd, disorienting waves, moments of frantic action interspersed with agonizing periods of waiting. Tips and sightings trickled in, some passengers recalling a young woman chatting animatedly at the bar, others a figure leaning over the railings late at night, but none of these sightings could be conclusively linked to Amy after her last confirmed sighting. Amidst the turmoil, a theory began to take shape among some of the crew and repeated in hushed tones by curious passengers. There was speculation that Amy might have been taken by someone on the ship, perhaps a crew member who knew the hidden corners and blind spots of the vast vessel. This theory was fueled by unsettling rumors of past incidents on cruise ships, tales of disappearances and crimes tucked away behind the glossy brochures and cheerful advertisements. The FBI was contacted as the ship was an American vessel in international waters, and their involvement marked a new phase of the investigation. Agents boarded the ship at its next stop, equipped with forensic tools and trained in the nuances of criminal investigations in such unique circumstances. They conducted interviews with the crew, scrutinized employment records, and collected fingerprints from areas Amy was last seen. Throughout this intensifying investigation, Ron, Eva, and Brad found themselves grappling with a torrent of emotions: hope, despair, anger, and an overwhelming sense of helplessness. The ship, once a symbol of leisure and escape, had transformed into a complex crime scene, a place where every hallway and door might hold the key to their beloved Amy's fate. As the sun set on another day without answers, the Caribbean's turquoise waters darkened to a deep blue, mirroring the profound depths of the mystery that held Amy Lynn Bradley in its silent grip. As the investigation into Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance deepened, the Rhapsody of the Seas transformed from a vessel of leisure to a focal point of an intense international mystery. The FBI's involvement brought a new level of scrutiny and capability to the search. Agents meticulously combed through the ship, from the engine rooms to the exclusive suites, looking for any trace of Amy or clues that might explain her sudden vanishing. With each cabin search, each review of the surveillance footage, and each interview conducted, the sense of urgency grew. The FBI agents worked closely with the ship's security team, comparing notes and consolidating reports of Amy's last known whereabouts. They mapped her movements across the ship, trying to piece together a timeline that made sense, but the gaps in the camera coverage and the varying witness accounts only muddied the waters further. Back in the United States, the media had begun to pick up the story. News of the beautiful young woman who vanished from a cruise ship was spreading quickly, capturing the attention of the public and various crime watch organizations. This media attention spurred a slew of tips and calls from people claiming to have seen Amy or knowing something about her disappearance. Each tip was followed up diligently, but most led to dead ends, adding to the frustration and heartache of the Bradley family. On the ship, the atmosphere was thick with tension and speculation. Passengers whispered about the disappearance, some fearful, others merely curious. The crew members, aware of the ongoing investigation, were on high alert. Their interactions with guests strained under the weight of suspicion. The once vibrant social scenes on the decks and lounges were now subdued, the music and laughter dimmed by the overhanging cloud of the unresolved case. As the cruise continued, the Bradleys were caught in a limbo between hope and despair. They spent their days assisting with the investigation, providing Amy's descriptions, her habits, and her personality traits to anyone who would listen. Flyers with Amy's photo were now weathered from exposure to the elements, her smiling face a stark contrast to the grim reality of her absence. Ron and Iva held nightly vigils on the deck where Amy was last seen. They stood by the railing, staring out into the vast ocean, wondering about the fate of their daughter. Was she still on board, hidden away somewhere? Had she been taken off the ship at one of the stops? The possibilities were endless and terrifying. In one of their efforts to gather more information, the FBI arranged for a forensic psychologist to join the investigation team. The psychologist was tasked with profiling potential suspects and understanding the psychological underpinnings that might drive someone to abduct a young woman like Amy. This approach led to a second, more focused sweep of the ship, targeting areas where someone could conceal themselves or a captive. Simultaneously, the investigation extended beyond the confines of the ship. Authorities in the ports the ship had visited were alerted and provided with Amy's description. Ports from Aruba to Curacao were on high alert, with law enforcement reviewing their own surveillance tapes and interviewing locals who might have seen something out of the ordinary. The Caribbean seas and the countries it bordered were vast, and the thought that Amy could be anywhere within this expanse was overwhelming. The Bradleys, driven by a relentless need to find their daughter, decided to extend their stay in the Caribbean after the cruise ended. They traveled from island to island, following up on every lead, every sighting, no matter how implausible it seemed. They met with local authorities, hired private investigators, and reached out to the community through local media. Each island brought a new wave of emotions, a new set of challenges, and a new round of waiting and hoping. As weeks turned into months, the story of Amy Lynn Bradley evolved from a missing person case to a tale of potential criminal networks involved in human trafficking. Theories abounded that Amy had been spotted in various locations, some suggesting she had been seen in the company of unidentified men. These leads were particularly chilling, painting a possible scenario of abduction and forced disappearance. Throughout this ordeal, the global community of travelers, expatriates, and locals in the Caribbean became increasingly engaged. People from all walks of life touched by the Bradleys' plight offered their help. Some provided financial support for the ongoing search efforts, while others volunteered their time to distribute flyers and raise awareness. The investigation into Amy's disappearance had now become a saga with international reach, involving multiple law enforcement agencies across several countries, each working through the complexities of their jurisdictions and the logistical challenges of an investigation spread across many islands. The quest to find Amy Lynn Bradley continued to expand, driven by the determination of her family and the collective effort of a mobilized international community, all clinging to the hope that somewhere in the vast, beautiful, and treacherous Caribbean, answers waited to be found. As years passed, the case of Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance became a haunting fixture in the world of unsolved mysteries. The Bradleys, driven by an undiminished resolve and supported by a network of volunteers and advocates, continued their search. Every lead, every tip, every sighting was followed up with the hope that it would bring them closer to finding Amy. The story of the vibrant young woman who vanished vanished from a cruise ship had touched people around the globe, drawing attention from international media, amateur sleuths, and professional investigators alike. The breadth of the investigation stretched the family's emotional and financial resources thin. Ron and Iva, who had once envisioned retirement filled with joy and grandchildren, now dedicated their lives to a different purpose. Their home became a command center plastered with maps, photos, and timelines detailing Amy's last known movements and the various sightings reported over the years. Each piece of information was meticulously cataloged and cross-referenced, creating a complex tapestry of possibilities that the Bradleys hoped would one day lead to Amy. Despite the passage of time, the Caribbean region remained a focal point of the investigation. The islands, with their transient tourist populations and scattered law enforcement resources, presented both a challenge and a hope. Every carnival, every market, and every beachfront could potentially hide clues to Amy's whereabouts or her fate. Private investigators and volunteers scoured these areas, engaging with locals and visitors, distributing aged, progressed images of Amy, and maintaining a visible presence to keep the case in the public eye. In one promising lead, a woman resembling Amy was reportedly seen in a shop in Barbados, her appearance consistent with how Amy might look years after her disappearance. The woman seemed distressed, her interactions hurried and nervous. This sighting led to a renewed flurry of activity, with the Bradleys and their team traveling to the island to work with local authorities. Security footage was reviewed, witnesses were re-interviewed, and areas around the sighting were searched. However, like many leads before, this one faded without confirmation, the woman disappearing into the daily flow of island life. Throughout this enduring quest, the psychological toll on the Bradley family was profound. Anniversaries of Amy's disappearance were marked with candlelight vigils and media interviews rather than forgotten as old news. Each event served as a reminder of the passage of time without answers, and each was an opportunity to reach someone new who might hold the key to unraveling the mystery. Meanwhile, the FBI and international law enforcement continued to keep the case open, classifying it as a possible victim of crime rather than a simple missing persons case. Theories about human trafficking, a criminal abduction, or an unplanned escape continued to circulate, each fueled by tidbits of evidence and coincidental sightings that kept hope alive but offered little in the way of concrete proof. As the digital age progressed, the case found new life online. True crime forums, podcasts, and social media platforms picked up Amy's story, analyzing every detail and proposing new theories. These digital detectives brought fresh eyes to the case, using online tools to overlay timelines, satellite imagery, and other data in ways that were not possible in the early years of the investigation. This new wave of interest prompted further reviews of the case by the authorities, ensuring that Amy's file was never far from the minds of those who could still make a difference. The Bradleys themselves became advocates for safety on cruise ships, pushing for legislation and changes in security protocols. Their personal tragedy had revealed vulnerabilities in the industry, and they worked tirelessly to ensure that no other family would have to endure a similar ordeal. Their efforts led to improvements in surveillance and security measures aboard ships, a bittersweet legacy born from their loss. Through it all, the mystery of what happened to Amy Lynn Bradley continued to evolve into a complex web of intrigue and heartbreak. Each new lead, each revisited theory added layers to a story that had captured the attention of a global audience. The Bradleys, sustained by a resilient hope, continued to fight for answers, their love for Amy undiminished by the years. The Caribbean sun continued to rise and set, casting long shadows over the islands and the ocean that had become the backdrop to Amy's story. In the endless expanse of blue, the secrets of her fate remained hidden, bobbing just beneath the surface, elusive and taunting. The Bradleys knew that the truth was out there, somewhere across the vast, undulating sea, and they remained steadfast in their quest to find it, driven by the unyielding power of familial love and the human need for closure and justice. This quest, though fraught with setbacks and heartaches, remained a testament to the enduring hope that one day the mystery of Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance would be solved, bringing peace to her family and to all those who had been touched by her story. Thank you for joining me on this profound and unsettling journey through the mysterious disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley. As we close today's episode here on Whispers of the Guilty, we are reminded of the fragility of safety, the depth of family bonds, and the enduring spirit of those who never cease to seek the truth. While today's story leaves us with more questions than answers, it also fuels a collective determination to keep searching, to keep questioning, and to never forget. If you have any information, no matter how small, that could shine a light on Amy's case or any others we discuss, please come forward. You could be the key to unlocking these enduring mysteries. Make sure to subscribe and join us next week as we delve into another chilling tale from the shadows of the unexplained and the unresolved. Until then, keep the candles burning and the conversations going. Remember, the darkness only prevails if we allow it to silence the stories that need to be told. Stay safe, stay curious, and keep whispering with us here at Whispers of the Guilty. Good night, everyone.